or both?
Welcome back, everyone.
Are you so
I wanted to talk
desperate
to you
prove
guys about
yourself?
what do you
Then let
think
us
Endgame
begin.
is right now for Borderlands 3 or Borderlands in general. It's been a topic that's been coming up, in the various places where people are talking about the game and forums and Facebook and Twitch and YouTube comments and all that. And there's a lot of people that are saying they've got no reason to play the game. They've farmed all the guns. They've killed Grave Ward 1,000 times and they're done with it. And to me, I'm just scratching the surface of this game. And I think everyone's got a different opinion of what Endgame is. So, right now I'm obviously doing my share of tomorrow stuff. And to me, this is Endgame. There are, over 200 unique or legendary guns, and then even, I think, more unique blue red text guns.
Come on, I want a damn challenge!
And I've only probably played with 20 of them. To me, Endgame is experimenting with all these guns, learning the guns, learning the mechanics, learning the skill trees, and coming up with fun, interesting ways to play the game, and then playing the game. Instead of just, I'm going to, like I said in my last video, okay, these are the 5 most powerful DPS guns that we know of. I'm going to spec into every DPS on a character, put on those guns, and go kill an easy boss 1,000 times. And get bored, and I've collected all the legendaries. But what's the point of collecting all that if you're not going to use it in interesting ways? I'm kind of happy with where the game is right now for Endgame, and yeah, I miss having a raid boss, but I'm honestly not that big into raid bosses, to be truthful. Even in Borderlands 2, which had a lot of raid bosses, if you look at them, like, Terror's pretty good. That was definitely a good start, but then you go into the Pirates DLC, and you've got G, which was boring. Hyperius was kind of cool, but he was bore bait, which was boring. And outside of that, once you got his pattern down, it wasn't all that difficult. And that's what a lot of the raid bosses came down to, is just patterns. And that's where I kind of actually prefer, like, Circles of Slaughter, because although you'll have similar spawns, there's more curveballs thrown at you, because those spawns are going to be different quite often, and you don't know what's coming at you, and depending on how you react, changes how the enemies react, and it's just different every time. Where a raid boss is just rinse and repeat and do the exact same thing and the exact same steps and win. It's almost like procedural, rather than gameplay. Veracitus was the hardest raid boss in Borderlands. Oh, that and Dragons. The Dragons can be derpy, which made them actually a lot more fun, in my opinion, because it was less predictable. But, like, Melee Zero during Veracitus was really impressive, and not a lot of players could do that, but when you watched it, everyone just did it the exact same way, following the exact same steps, and although it was difficult to pull off those steps because there was little room for error in it, it was just following the steps. And again, that's not that fun. It's just use these pieces of gear, this exact build, and do this. I like a variety of things. I like to play the game a different way, and that's why I like a lot of Borderlands 2. Like, I love Peak, I love this Areas of Slaughter, I love just running challenging, fun maps. And that, to me, is a lot more fun, is just getting into that stuff and using that stuff. And the other part of Endgame is, we're at beginning game. We don't know shit. We really don't. I don't know how many of you are around when Borderlands 2 first came out, and if you were like involved in the community, but it's laughable things that people thought back then. And I hear a lot of assertions going around now, and I kind of laugh. And I'm like, we don't know what we're talking about. Like, we do a little bit because we've played so much Borderlands. I think we're better equipped for this release than we were for like Borderlands 2. But Borderlands 2, when that came out, people said Critical Ascension is the worst capstone in the game. It's completely useless. And then Aether Seraph figured it out, and then he kind of spread it to guys like Greentail and Mobile Fiber, and they kind of spread that information, and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, Critical Ascension is OP, it can melt things. But for a long time, it took people like a year to figure out Critical Ascension. Even when like the DLC started hitting, when the Pimpernel first came out with the Scarlet DLC, people said it was a shitty sniper. For like the first, I don't know if it was like 3 months or 6 months, but it was a while where people thought the Pimpernel was a trash gun. Think about
to unleash this power.
the Pimpernel, a trash gun. It's insane. And when I started using the Pimpernel on Maya, that was like when OP8 came out. Long into the game. And when I started using it, people were like, oh, you can't use the Pimpernel with Maya, it doesn't work. You can't sweet spot phase lock enemies, it's too hard. You're better off with a Snider. That was like a common thing being said. And no one was using the Pimpernel with Maya before I did it, and therefore the crazy like chain reaction combos that we found, we didn't find that stuff out until like OP8 was out for at least 3, 4, or maybe even 6 months.
Time out.
Like years into the game's life cycle, we figured out like, oh shit, Maya can pretty much one shot or one magazine Saturn. It took us years to figure that out. We could have done that True Vault Hunter mode at level 50 with a Pimpernel and boosting chain reaction. No one figured that out until months after OP8 was released, when it was actually harder to do it. Like, that's nuts. So, you know, again, endgame to me is exploring the game, exploring the gear, exploring the skills, exploring the synergies, and finding all this stuff. And I have like 20 Amara builds in mind right now, and then I've got a bunch of flak ones, but I need some anointments to pull those off. And there's so much I want to do. So I wonder, like, what you guys think endgame is right now. And yeah, I want other things, but you know, if you settle for just I'm going to use the top 5 meta guns and spec into every DPS skill and just wreck a boss until I have all the legendaries and then get frustrated, I'm telling you, you're missing out. There's so much more to do. And sometimes this is ironic coming from me. Stop just copying people's builds that they post on YouTube and places and just figure out your own build. Take a gun that you think is interesting, go grab the log and figure out how to make that build. You know, grab an underused piece of gear and just say, how can I make this work with the characters that I have? You might not have all 4 of them. And then maybe you'll fail, but maybe in trying that you'll find something else that's really cool that no one else discovered. And then that can be yours. You just need to be proud of that, and that's fun. So yeah, like, explore. I just kind of urge everyone to expand their notion of endgame right now, because endgame is coming. It is. And a lot of times for Borderlands, endgame comes with DLCs, because Borderlands 2 didn't have much endgame. There's no repeatable arenas, there was no proving grounds, there was no custom difficulty. Yeah, I had 1 raid boss, or 2 raid bosses technically, but the endgame was a joke in Borderlands 2, and it became awesome without the DLC. And that's coming. It's coming, but for now, we're in the beginning game. Even if you have all your characters maxed and you have all the legendaries, you're in the beginning of the game. That's just where we are, because we don't know shit. So, play with things and learn things and figure things out, and just kind of put down the meta guns for a bit. Step away from Grave Ward and, like, go try, like, interesting, cool, fun enemy, because they're fun. And figuring that stuff out is fun. At least to me it is. So, that's my opinion of endgame. What is it for you guys right now? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you all later. Thanks for watching. Bye.